Were those switches deliberately moved?
The AAIB laid out the facts, timeline, and switch movements, but they stopped short of actually naming someone who was responsible. Now, the media is doing that part.
These are potentially explosive claims about that Air India crash. The Wall Street Journal reports multiple US officials say the captain deliberately turned off the fuel switches seconds before the plane came down.
Today's video, we're not rehashing what happened second by second. If you need that breakdown, I've already done so. You can find that video here. Let's focus on the switches because that's at the center of attention. Again, at 8:08 and 43 seconds UTC, Engine 1 fuel switch moves to cutoff. 1 second later, Engine 2 follows. The cockpit voice recorder captures, "Why did you cut off? I did not do so." They were manually moved back to the run mid-descent, almost certainly as part of the restart attempt. Now here's the critical thing. The AAIB never confirmed who said which line. So when the media claims the captain said one and the first officer said the other, that's purely speculation. An educated guess? Maybe, but it's not official. What is official, after the crash, both fuel switches were found on the run position. They were manually moved back to run mid-descent, almost certainly part of the restart attempt. They were undamaged, and if they'd been compromised or broken on impact, they would likely have shifted position. Switches were working as designed. And per the AAIB, they were manually transitioned, not tripped, not glitched, or failed. That language, manually transitioned, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It implies deliberate action, not automation, and that brings us back to the cockpit dynamics. Before the press started pointing fingers,
the Wall Street Journal says the first officer panicked while the captain seemed to remain calm.
Aviation analyst and pilot Captain Steeve already had a working theory.
I think it's pretty clear from this report exactly what happened.
Steve's logic wasn't emotional, it was procedural.
1 second apart from each other is consistent with how we start and how we cut off the engines. That whole transition takes about a second in between the two. 1 second is absolutely consistent with engage, engage. Or somehow the fuel switches had vibrated into the position, you wouldn't turn to the other person and say, "Why did you do that?" You pull the nose back of the airplane. You have no visual reference of anything. So now your peripheral vision watches the ground outside the airplane do like this as you're lifting off, and you've got a normal rate of climb. In addition to that, you're going to transition your view down to the scope in front of you. So all of those things are happening at the same time. Your peripheral vision is going to pick up anything that's not normal. And if the person next to you reaches over, or on this side, the first officer reaches over and grabs the fuel control switches, the other pilot is going to see it out of the corner of their eye. And you're going to go, what? What was that? Right? Did I just see what I thought I saw? That takes a split second. You're going to turn to the other person and you're going to say, "Why did you do that?"
The first officer was occupied. The switches are closer to the captain. The timing, one, then the other. It seemed rapid and deliberate. And there's no checklist that calls for cutting fuel at rotation, no phase of a climb where that's standard procedure. So Steve's theory is now echoed by global outlets.
Tonight, the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that U.S. officials believe the captain intentionally cut the fuel to both engines on that Air India flight.
Or is it just the United States?
How Western media has jumped to a certain conclusion, so much so that they're conveniently pinning the blame on one of the pilots as well.
The report that AIB has released, it does not mention any concluding remarks. It only says that the switch had made transition. It does not go on to say that whether it was done manually or did it happen mechanically.
Here's the part that most headlines skip. The AAIB investigators have confirmed his medical history is under review, including mental health and cognitive fitness. Both pilots did pass their Class 1 exams, but exams aren't a diagnosis. Human error isn't just fatigue or inexperience. It can stem from unresolved trauma, subtle cognitive drift, or emotional blind spots that build over time. It's uncomfortable to talk about, but it matters because aviation is built on human reliability. The AAIB hasn't issued its final conclusion, but the trail of evidence leaves little ambiguity. The switches were manually moved. They were restored to run mid-descent. They were not damaged on impact. The media now names the captain. And most crucially, the timeline and cockpit dynamics leaves very few alternatives. I'll be tracking every development, every headline, and every update until the final AAIB report is released. In the meantime, share your theories, challenge the evidence, and if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe for more aviation related news and deep dives. I don't know what my next video will be on just yet, but when the story breaks, I'll be ready. This is Final Approach POV. Stay sharp and safe flying, folks.